Welcome to the first episode of the KinoCast. I'm Patrick, and I'm joined with my friends Alejandro and Alvaro. And with us today we have Len Kabasinski. And if any of you aren't familiar with his works, which I doubt you he directed Fist of the Vampire, Swamp Zombies, and many other of the movies, which is just kind of the shining example of low-budget guerrilla movies. And we enjoy them. And so we're honored today to have him on our show. Thank you, Len.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited. So, congrats on your first episode. It's like, wow, I'm your first guest person on the first episode you've ever done. So, I'm honored. So, thanks for thinking of me and my works. I appreciate it.
We are as amazed as you are.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to lie. When we planned the first episode, but we never imagined we would have a guest, and when Patrick told us he could get you, we all got way too excited, actually.
Yeah.
It was just surreal. It was kind of like it's never gonna happen. I sent the message out, and I feel like an excited schoolgirl because I don't know if you're gonna reply or not, and we got that back.
Now I'm gonna podcast you guys. I guess if I'm asking a question, it's like what made you think of my works, or how did you learn about my works? Because I don't even know, what country are you guys in?
Well, I'm from the UK.
Okay.
I'll let Alejandro explain where he's from.
From Guatemala. It's basically a third world country. We're right below Mexico. I guess that's it.
I'm from Uruguay, but I'm living in Belgium right now.
Wow. So we're all over the world here. So yeah, I was gonna say like a place like the UK, and I know places like Belgium and stuff too. Movies like Swamp Zombies. The first thing I ever did that played on television over there. The UK has like the Zone Horror channel and stuff like that. Curse of the Wolf played on there. Fist of the Vampire played on there. Oh. Swamp Zombies played on there. I don't know what the channel's called so much anymore, but it used to be called the Zone Horror channel, I believe. But again, it was in like the UK and Ireland and several different countries. Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I can't say I've seen it on TV here because the UK has like a surprisingly oppressive government, and you need like a license to watch TV or to own a TV. And they sent letters through the mail saying, and even if we don't have a TV, and they were like, oh, we need to check that you don't have that you have a TV license and don't have any TVs. We will send an enforcement officer to your house whenever, and we're not going to tell you when. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that sounds like a post-apocalyptic movie or something.
Nanny state. Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, whatever. We're not going to get into that. But yeah, very excited to have you on today.
Can I ask you where you are from in the U.S.?
I live in wonderfully beautiful Erie, Pennsylvania. So I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania. I love it. I'm right on Lake Erie. It's a beautiful city. It is where I'm from, and I'm where I currently have. I've been back to Erie and have lived in Erie for about the last I don't know, 14 years maybe, something like that. But I've lived all over. I've lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I lived in Buffalo, New York. I lived outside of New York City for a while. But Erie's home, and I love it. So, and that's where I'm coming from tonight. I am in my living room in Erie, Pennsylvania. Nice.
Okay, yeah. So to kind of get this into motion, we've got one requested question that we got asked because we're in a movie group on Facebook. Like niche weirdos go there, and we posted something out there saying, if you've got any questions, please hit us up. And we had one question.
Yeah.
One person actually asking a question, so we got a lot of attention. It got like 30, no, not even like 20 kind of reactions and that kind of stuff. But then one genuine question. So we'll get to that one. We'll ask a few more, but apart from that, we'll just let conversation kind of roll.
You can ask away, ask whatever you want.
Oh, fantastic! I'm sure we've all got our own questions and that kind of stuff. We've been discussing it, like, what do we ask Len? But the biggest question, the most important one, was the one that was sent in to us, and we were to ask you kind of where did you start out with films, and how did you manage to get your works distributed, and kind of the general process of low budget filmmaking and how it gets out there to an audience.
Sure. Well, I would have. The first thing I ever did actually was I was an extra in a film called Zombie-Geddon, which is probably back in 2003, 2004, somewhere in there. Chris Watson was doing a movie. I was hanging out at a horror movie convention where he was at promoting Zombie-Geddon, which was still shooting at the time on weekends and stuff here and there. And the late Bob Zadar, R.I.P., buddy, we miss your work.
Oh, yeah. Amazing actor.
Yeah, he was in Maniac Cop and Tango and Cash and lots of movies. And
I love him.
Yeah, he's great. He was a really good musician in real life, actually. He would play the piano in the lobby of these hotels for these conventions, and he was just amazing. But yeah, he was there hanging out, and I was talking to Bob and Chris, and Bob was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing later?" And I was like, "I don't know, hanging out at the bar, drinking, watching the basketball tournament." And he's like, "Well, they're shooting a movie called Zombie-Geddon at this university downtown at this radio station. You guys want to go be zombies?" And I thought, well, yeah, sure, cool. This sounds great. Brink Stevens was on set, beautiful woman. The late Conrad Brooks from the original Plan 9 from Outer Space, he was there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. So it's really an all-star cast of like B, and I don't really like B names, but it's a lot of names like that are in that film. But anyways, I went down there as a zombie and hung out for the night with those guys and drove around Cleveland in zombie makeup and did this scene that appears at the end of Zombie-Geddon. But ever since then, Chris Watson kind of acted sort of like a mentor to me, and I still talk to him frequently to this day. I don't forget my roots, and I got the utmost respect for people like that, and I almost treat Chris Watson like a karate master to me in terms of like filmmaking. There's always that undying respect I have for him and what he's done for me, and kind of showed me the ropes on really digital filmmaking, because it's not that I didn't want to do a movie when I was 24 years old or something, but back then it's still, to do a movie you had to shoot 35 millimeter film for the most part, that kind of thing. And you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of budget normally, unless you really have some contacts or some freebies somewhere. But so it was very hard to do films back then. But once Mini DV came out and this indie horror kind of revolution came out, it made it much easier to be creative, get your ideas out there, get works out there, and do movies. And Chris Watson really showed me kind of the beginning of how to do that. So I went right after I did that Zombie-Geddon role as an extra. I kept talking to him and said, hey, I've written this film, Swamp Zombies, that I believe can be a little different than the normal indie picture coming out there. And whether it is or not, that's up to the viewers to say that, not me. But I'm just showing, my line of thinking here with it was, I could put a bunch of fight scenes in it. I know some people that are good fighters and stuff like that in real life. We'll make this kung fu, karate, zombie, campy, weird movie. And that's what we set out to do. And I knew from Chris Watson, I learned that, get some named people in your movie, for distribution, get the most popular names you can, have them on set for like one day, get them in, get them out, and put them in as many scenes in the movie as you can film in a day. And that's what we did. I had contacted Dan Severin, who was a UFC Hall of Famer. And back then, and Swamp Zombies was filmed around 2004. The UFC was nowhere near the popularity, what it is today. So I'm not going to say I'm a visionary, but I knew back then that there was something about this Ultimate Fighting stuff that was going to get popular. So I said, hey, Dan Severin was in WWF as well, a very popular, obviously, wrestler.
He's the one who played the police.
Correct.
Policeman.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very, very super nice man. I mean, incredibly nice man. He was going to be in Fist of the Vampire and do some other things with me, but he's obviously a popular, incredibly busy guy, and scheduling-wise, it just never worked out. But it wasn't because we didn't like working with one another. It was just schedules never matched. But he was an incredibly nice man. And then Jasmine St. Clair, who was coming off of adult films and stuff. She had been retired for a couple years from that anyways, but obviously her name still carried weight. She was still popular from those kinds of pictures. So Jasmine St. Clair got involved. I was casting a role for a hermit in the film, and Jasmine St. Clair I was talking with, and she said, hey, I used to, at the time, her boyfriend was Blue Meanie, who was also a popular ECW and WWF wrestler and stuff. And she said, hey, he'd dye his hair, do this and that, but you should consider him. He's a good performer. I said, okay. And the next thing, our cast was shaping up to be WWF's Blue Meanie and adult film star Jasmine St. Clair and UFC Hall of Famer Dan Severin. And then we had kind of an indie screen queen that did a lot of other indie movies in Pamela Such, who kind of has her own following as well. And so we were off and running. And that's how that first picture really came about. I wrote the script on my lunch breaks while I was at work. For over the span of a month or two there, like the summer, or spring, I should say, spring. And then, we were filming not too long after that. So I was still in college at the time. My second round of college, I have a theater and communications degree, and I went back to school, and I've worked in physical rehab for the last 14 years or so. But, so that's how that came about. But distribution-wise, I think to answer that part of the question, it really depends on what your expectation is. Are you out to make money off your film? Or are you out to just get your picture out there? Because those are two distinctly different things. I know, like right now, I have Swamp Zombies 2 that we made that is available on my Patreon campaign. When people join Patreon, they can see the movie for free. And most of my works I'm trying to funnel through there because it's kind of eliminating traditional distribution, which I think, one, you're not going to make any real money at anyways. But, if your goal is to get on a Walmart shelf or something like that, or on a department store shelf or something like that, traditional distributors are still the way to go, obviously, but you make very little money off of like DVD sales and things like that. Everything is really video on demand. So you really got to research and get to a company that you feel, I don't want to say trust, because you really can't trust anybody, but at the same point, you're going to make all your money off of video on demand stuff. And, if you're going into an indie picture with a budget of, I'd say, more than like $5 to $7 grand, you should be really careful in indie cinema that, you're not going to exactly make your money back per se right off the bat. But now I'm at the point where, back then I had a plan, though. I should backtrack a little bit. Back then, I knew if I got Dan Severin, Blue Meanie, Jasmine St. Clair, I knew some distributor was going to be interested in me, but I didn't have the brains back then, and maybe still don't now, that, it's arguable that, I just knew I wanted it to get out there as much as it could, meaning Best Buys and all that, department stores across the U.S. and things like that, which it did. I mean, Brain Damage Films, who I signed with, did a good job at that, but I think Swamp Zombies went in with about a $10,000 budget, maybe 12 if you throw in all the equipment and stuff we had, because people don't realize, well, Len doesn't lighten his films, or Len doesn't focus his films, or whatever the arguments may be. I have a boom mic. We boom mic Swamp Zombies. I was trying certain things. I had certain equipment and stuff like that. But, it was our first film, and that was that. And I'm amazed, really, that people still talk about it. But
because back then, you didn't have DSLRs, you didn't have the equipment that it's as easy to get today, did you? It was 2004.
Yeah, we filmed, and I still own the camera that I shot Swamp Zombies on. Now, is it a film quality camera? No, but is it a nice camera for what it is? Yeah, but mini DV tapes are by the wayside now. But I shot Swamp Zombies 1 on the Canon GL2, which unfortunately was not 24p, which we've come to know as the standard. If you want to look like a movie, you got to shoot on a 24p camcorder or camera or DSLR. That kind of stuff. But back then, I didn't know. I just picked what I thought was a good camera.
I'm sorry I asked, but it was the first movie you did, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The first time you took a camera and you filmed something.
Anything, yeah. Right.
I think we can all relate to the fact that you discover by making mistakes, or by I say mistakes, but just by making stuff that really isn't I don't know, standard quality, whatever, visually or then you learn by those things. Like, I think everyone can relate to that. If you've ever picked up a camera and filmed something, it's a wonderful feeling too, to like you said, like not knowing something and then knowing after
and
you.
With that, I would say too, with what going off of what you just said, you look at a movie like Swamp Zombies from 2004, I'd say, okay, people, it is what it is, watch it and whatever, but go forward to 2015 and watch Angel of Reckoning, or watch my stuff now that's on Patreon, Blood
exactly.
Prism. I think you will notice a difference. If you don't, I'm sorry, I stand corrected, but I think you will notice a difference in the sound design in Blood Prism was done by Matthew Smith, and he did it, in my opinion, top shelf job in terms of sound design and stuff like that. A movie like Hellcat's Revenge, all that stuff, and you know what? You talk about you're not afraid to make mistakes, and you make mistakes. Let me tell you, you'll make mistakes forever, man. In filmmaking, and not just in filmmaking, but in art. If you're in creative arts, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have people that absolutely love your stuff. They'll love everything you do. People love Rob Zombie's Halloween. Are you kidding me? For real? But you know what? That's the thing. When you got fans that are diehard fans, they'll love you for being you, and I think that's awesome. You know what I mean? I could probably go make Swamp Zombies 3 right now in my backyard that's got a fucking tree in it, and people will love it. You know what I mean?
Fuck yeah. Yeah, so, totally.
You know what I mean? When you be yourself, you can't lose. I mean, people will come to, have that expectation about your work, but also they're supporting you because they love you and what you're standing for and stuff. And I am not come across fake in any notion or sense or form when I do my creative works. I mean, I put my heart and soul into them. Some fail, some super fail, some succeed. But you can never be afraid to make mistakes because you're going to make those anyways. And it's just a matter of trying to, like any art, painting, drawing, sculpting, whatever, everybody wants to show progress, I think. Nobody wants to stay the same. You just want to, the biggest compliment to me is, somebody will watch Blood Prism and be like, Len, your lighting is superb. It's come such a long way since the beginning or something. And that does. That's why I do this stuff too. It makes me feel good when people can recognize that, I'm trying to do these things. But, I would challenge people to, go watch Blood Prism, go watch Hellcat's Revenge, my latest films, Swamp Zombies 2, and then go tell me what you think those budgets were. You know what I mean? It's like, well, Len, Blood Prism looks like it was filmed for $85,000 or whatever the figure is. Somebody go watch those programs and tell me what you thought the budgets were, and I'll be honest with you on what they were. So, but that's the thing. You're trying to make $1 million pictures or go in the same places that these $1 million pictures are going, to video stores or all that kind of stuff. But VOD, video on demand, is where it's at now. I mean, that's where everything's online. When I posted a question not too long ago on my Twitter page, I said, hey, I think it was before Blood Prism was coming out. I said, who's interested in physical media anymore? Who's interested in Blu-rays? Who's interested in DVDs? Or is everything video on demand? And you know what? I bet 75% of the people were just interested in video on demand type stuff, not like physical DVDs or Blu-rays. So.
Yeah, traditional media is definitely getting outsourced now, especially to things that are far more accessible. You have streaming sites like Netflix now and Amazon and that kind of stuff, and just the venues now in which you can get things distributed are so much more broad than what they used to be even 10 years ago. But I wanted to go off your point real quick and just say that I can completely appreciate everything you said there. The first film is always magical as a learning curve and experience. A few months ago, with some friends for a college project, I shot my first short film. Which
congratulations!
Thank you. It's a little crime thriller called Bus Heist, and we shot that on 400 pounds that I saved up from my work shifts. But we had the advantage of my friend having like a 1K Blackmagic cinema camera, and it was just just in terms of like logistics and handling everyone and making sure continuity is correct, it's such a difficult and tasking process, but you learn so much from it. And I get where you're coming from, but I wanted to just talk about that briefly and then move on.
I want to add just a little fuck yeah to that Len talked about. I totally agree. Yeah, it's the heart.
Yeah, sounds distribution. It's really up to the filmmaker and what they're trying to accomplish with it in terms of are you trying to get to stores, or are you just looking for, because if you're trying to do that, if you're trying to go to a Walmart or an FYE or any of these big retail chains or something like that, I would say just be careful, because if you do that, great, but when you go down that road, if you think you're on a store shelf, or you go to your local electronics store and see your movie on a shelf, you're not making any money from that. I mean, you don't make any money off of DVDs from distributors, never. In fact, I'm not, out of 12 movies I have, or however many I have signed with distributors, I don't know if I've made a penny off of DVDs through the years. It's always been video on demand stuff where I'm making money at, or television appearances. I would make money whenever Swamp Zombies would play on the UK Zone Horror Network, or Curse of the Wolf would play on Zone Horror or something. I'd make money off of that. But off of DVDs, it's always been like nothing. So if you want that reach, the thing to remember is distributors still can get to places you can't. That's why they're distributors. You know, if you want to go to, say, a place like Netflix or iTunes, you need an aggregator or essentially a distributor. They're a little different. They're not the same thing, but they're kind of the same thing. Meaning that Netflix is not going to talk to you unless you're a distributor that's got other works for them, or you're an aggregator that's trying to pitch to them. But I can't take Len cannot take my film Blood Prism to Netflix and say, hey, can you consider this or whatever? They won't even talk to me. Yeah. You're either an aggregator or a distributor, or forget it. And you know, I get it. They're probably trying to quality control, because back in the day, the original Swamp Zombies, Curse of the Wolf, Fist of the Vampire, those were all available on Netflix and stuff like that back in the day.
Really?
Oh, I can imagine.
Now, the three early ones, Netflix was, to me, a lot better 10 years ago. Now it's more like their own programming and their own produced shows and things like that. But back in the day, when you would get a DVD in the mail after you rented something, oh yeah, you could get all my early films on Netflix and stuff. But again, too, if people think, oh, you know, I'm on Netflix, hooray, I'm getting my film out there, you're still not making much money. I mean, in terms of like Netflix, they go off of usually a 2-year agreement or so. And for like an indie style picture, you might get $2 or $3 grand. I mean, for a 2-year license, that's not a lot of money. You know, so when you break it down, that is not a lot of money. So you know, and after you pay an aggregator $1,000 to pitch to Netflix, at the end of the day, you're making like $500 a year. Why would I bother with Netflix if you're only going to give me $500? I'd rather just hang on to the rights to my film and do what I want with it. You know, and if I make $500, great. And if I don't, great. But at least I controlled its destiny, and it wasn't tied up in some shitty contract with Netflix or something like that. So yeah, distribution-wise, it's really, you know, what you're trying to do with it. But if you're trying to make money, a place like Amazon or something, you can do that yourself now. I mean, the original Swamp Zombies, you guys said you watched Swamp Zombies recently. I really hope you watched the Amazon Prime version, because that's the re-edited version, and it's so much better.
we watched
I'm sorry.
The Kings of Horror version on YouTube.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you if you had to see the 2-hour version. But the one on Amazon Prime now that I put up there, I closed captioned the film and everything. It's like 85 minutes. We chopped a bunch of just stupid shit out of the movie, and yeah, you know, I mean, when I say that, you know, I mean people walking in and out of doors, or people walking from cars to buildings.
How about people walking into showers?
That got trimmed a little bit.
Oh,
I mean, I know people like that scene, but it got trimmed by a couple minutes. But it's still there.
That makes it the worst edition, in my opinion. But there we go. That's just me being like a.
I would have extended the shower scene.
Yeah, you know, in terms of distributing those films to places like Amazon, I mean, you can do that yourself. You don't need a distributor for that. You know, everything you see on Amazon Prime, I'd say I've got at least 4 movies on there now, soon to be 5. You know, Swamp Zombies 2 will go up in about a month. And then I've got a long lost film called Blood Mercury that's almost finishing up here, and I imagine by the end of the year that'll be up there too. So, but I don't need a distributor. Why am I going to get a cut of a cut of a cut of a cut, which means I get a penny every time you watch Swamp Zombies 2? You know, when you're through a distributor. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. So in terms of reach for those kinds of places like Amazon, you can do that without a distributor. But places like iTunes and Netflix, you still need an aggregator, which is going to charge you $1,000 just to pitch to them, you know, or a distributor, and take your chances. But I've had several movies signed with Worldwide Multimedia, and I don't know if I'd ever go away from them. If I was to sign my film again with a distributor, a traditional distributor, Worldwide Multimedia has done really the best for me. I can say I'm at least making my budgets back with what I make from them, which is more than I could say off of Brain Damage and stuff like that. I don't bash anybody or talk bad about nobody, but you know, sometimes it's better to stay with the devil you know. And if I was to sign again, it would probably be with Worldwide Multimedia.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, a fantastic answer, and I've just been here the whole time nodding like you're in the same room, like whatever. But
thank you, Skype.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, just moving on. Alvaro, do you have any questions you wanted to cut? Because we said that to distribute it evenly, and it has been me talking. We'll
Okay,
try
yeah.
to ask a question.
I
So.
think I really want to talk about Swamp Zombies, but really I think the question I want to ask you is biggest, because I saw the action scenes in Swamp Zombies, and I'll be honest with you, I think it's the parts of the movie that I most enjoyed, and I really could appreciate the editing and the choreography behind them. And I wanted to ask you, you said Kung Fu was an inspiration, so what are your top Kung Fu movies? And are they from Hong Kong?
Ooh. I like a bit of everything. If I was going to pick something foreign, if you would, I like the Shaw Brothers stuff from the 70s. I like a lot of their stuff. I think my favorite would be Five Element Ninja, which is one of my all-time actually favorite movies. It's probably in my like top 20 like favorite movies of all time. And that came out of the Shaw Brothers studio. All the Five Venom stuff, I like all that stuff. But then there's in terms of like Bruce Lee movies and stuff, I wasn't a humongous Bruce Lee fan. And honestly, if I had to pick my favorite movie of his, honestly, I have a generic answer for it, because I really like Enter the Dragon, and I know that's his most popular movie and his most widespread movie, but I think it's his best movie, and I think
fantastic.
When you go back and you know what, the studio, which I believe is Warner Brothers, released that. I think. They knew what they were doing, because what are you going to do with and Bruce Lee wasn't exactly a proven American commodity in terms of cinematic works at that point. Sure, he did a lot of stuff overseas, but in America, I mean, nobody really knew who he was until Enter the Dragon. I mean, for the most part. I mean, sure, there's Green Hornet and stuff like that, but I mean, when Enter the Dragon came, he's a household name. And but what Warner Brothers did was very smart. They surrounded him with good people. You had a great director in Robert Klaus. R.I.P. buddy, we miss your stuff. You left so much on the table. We miss you. Robert Klaus, directed that picture. They surrounded him with John Saxon, a wonderful actor who is also a real-life black belt, which most people probably didn't know. But he's a black belt in real life. And a great actor. So they surrounded him with a lot of good people. And then you had a lot of legends that they brought in, too, to the film, like Bolo Yen, who went on to be more popular.
Oh, Bolo, yeah.
Yeah, Bolo's in Enter the Dragon. Yeah, very young Bolo. Yeah, and exactly. He's more known for being Chung Li or Kong Li in Bloodsport. But they surrounded him with a lot of good people and a good, competent director. Enter the Dragon's my favorite one. And going forward, though, I mean, I'm an 80s kid, so a lot of the martial art movies that I really love are throughout the 80s and into the early 90s. A lot of stuff like Cynthia Rothrock movies, the China O'Brien movies, No Retreat, No Surrender 2, and anything that had like Jalal Murphy in it, or Lauren Avedon in it, or Matthias Hughes in it, or a lot of the guys that went direct to home video kind of stuff that didn't have these big theatrical releases. But once you hit the 80s, you could go direct to home video. And a lot of those actors I really like. But I'm obviously probably the biggest fan of like the Cannon films. I'm a big Michael Dudikoff and American Ninja is one of my favorite movies. I love that series. That kind of stuff. Anything with Sho Kusagi, not Enter the Ninja, but Revenge of the Ninja. Enter the Ninja is really good too. He's in that as well. So all the ninja craze is what even furthered my love for those movies. Is by that point I'm about 8 or 9 years old, and I'm getting into the ninja type films and stuff. But and then even through to the early 90s, you had a great action star in like Jeff Wincott or something, Martial Outlaw. You had King of the Kickboxers with Lauren Avedon and Billy Blanks, a pre-Tai Bo Billy Blanks, so he wasn't super popular yet worldwide. But so Billy was doing B movies back then before Tai Bo hit. So and King of the Kickboxers is a lot of fun and maybe one of my all-time favorite like B style action movies. But when I watch those pictures, and even going back to the Shaw Brothers stuff, you can take a simple storyline, like I'm avenging the death of my master or whatever, in every single movie there is. But it's the fight scenes that make the movie. You know,
exactly.
It's the choreography in the differences in stuff like that. And you can have the same exact storyline, but if it's a kung fu picture, and what if they're doing like Northern Shaolin style kung fu, and then the next picture that has the same exact plot line is doing taekwondo, you're going to have two distinctly different looking pictures because of the fight scenes in the styles and stuff like that. So
it even goes in the cinematography and how they shoot the fight, how like, and sorry if I interrupted you, in Fist of Fury they do this like wide shot from the top and they spin around Bruce Lee. So it really depends on the variety that's out there. It's the hype.
Yeah, it really is. And in terms of like my career, in 2 months now, I'm going to go into my first all-out kung fu film. I've waited my whole life to do a movie like that, where most of my movies, as you guys know to this point, are kind of horror, zombies, werewolves, vampire, whatever. And then lately I've got to do a couple more action-style drama type pictures like Angel of Reckoning or Hellcat's Revenge and stuff. But really, I'm going to start a movie called Challenge of Five Gauntlets, which is kind of my throwback to like a Shaw Brothers style film. And when I say that, it doesn't mean it's going to have weird dubbing or anything like that. I'm not doing anything like that. But what Challenge of Five Gauntlets really is a throwback to a simple type story, and then let the fight scenes just develop the story and sprinkle throughout and move the picture along, and very much like a 70s kung fu movie. And really, I've waited my whole life to do it, and it starts in 2 months. It co-stars Leo Fong, who is more famous, a legendary filmmaker in his own right. From Low Blow is probably his most famous picture, but he also did a movie which I think is actually better, but is called Kill Point. He's done a bunch of pictures with like Cameron Mitchell and a lot of actors. So Leo Fong's coming out for it, and I'm excited to get started on it. I'm excited to really do my first real all-out, karate kung fu picture, and it's been a long time coming, but I'm at the point in my career where I can do that, and I'm really looking forward to it. And in terms of it might be my first film that's not like a rated R style picture. I mean, it actually, as the script is written, it's very probably PG-13ish. But if you go back and look at films like Five Element Ninja or The Five Venoms and those kinds of things, except for maybe a couple violent like death scenes, there's no nudity, there's no foul language, that kind of stuff. It's all just fight scene stuff. So almost video game-ish in a way. And that's kind of what Challenge of Five Gauntlets is. I'm looking to do my first karate kung fu picture. I'm not going to pull any tricks. I'm not going to throw in a 5-minute shower scene. I'm not going to bring in a name actor for this or that or this or that, or I'm looking to do a karate picture like I would have loved growing up, and nail it and put it out there for you guys, and hopefully you enjoy it.
I'm gonna watch it.
I'm probably gonna.
I was gonna say I'd seen the Indiegogo campaign for it.
Which is almost over.
Yeah.
7 weeks left.
Has it been successful? Sorry.
I think overall, yeah. In terms of, I've only attempted crowdfunding, if you will, twice. And it would have been on Hellcat's Revenge and this picture, Challenge of Five Gauntlets. But do I think it's successful? I think, yeah. It's at a point now where we're going to have a camera and new lights and this kind of stuff from it. It allowed me to bring in a cinematographer from Washington, D.C. So Aaron Bratcher is going to come in, my cinematographer and camera guy, and he'll get things rolling there. So we're going to shoot a lot of the film on a Canon C200, which is a really great camera. And,
my God, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's going to be shot on. And so the quality's going to be there.
It's pretty expensive.
I was going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say my plan for this summer was to try and save up for a Canon C100, and those alone, they're a bit outdated now, but they still go up to like $1,500, just secondhand. It's crazy.
Yeah. Actually, funny you should say that. Swamp Zombies 2, Scott Montague, the videographer, cameraman, and editor of Swamp Zombies 2, he shot most of Swamp Zombies 2 is shot on the C100 actually. So if you watch Swamp Zombies 2, there's your look of the C100. And then, but actually too, though, and I was really happy about this, is I personally own a Canon G20, and in the beginning of Swamp Zombies, the very first scene is shot on the G20, all of it, and except for like the drone shots. But I was pretty happy video quality wise, how it kind of hanged with the other footage kind of thing. So the G20 is a real workhorse, and that camera was like, shit, I bought that to do Angel of Reckoning, so that was like 2014 or 15. And yeah, the G20 was like $650 or something. So definitely a workhorse camera, and I'm sure it'll film B-roll for Challenge of 5 Gauntlets, I'm sure. So but the C100, if you want to see that in action, see Swamp Zombies 2, because
absolutely
95% of the movie was shot on the C100.
Fantastic. Alejandro, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. First of all, my main question would be, if you had the chance to make any project you could, whether it be a film, a piece of music, or any kind, or a book even, and you had all the money in the world, let's assume that, what would be your perfect project, basically, your dream come true?
My perfect project, honestly, it'll sound a little funny, but it wouldn't be this $100 million picture. You know what I mean? Yeah. I guess my answer to this is going to be twofold, because as much as people know me for being this karate martial art guy, my favorite film of all time is What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which is a dramatic American picture with Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio. And it is absolutely my number one favorite movie of all time. Runner-up to that, but very close runner-up to that for me would be The Karate Kid, which I think is a fantastic story of using martial arts to develop friendships and things like that, and connections in life that'll last you lifelong. And I know Cobra Kai's come out and stuff like that now, and I watched the first season, and I think with it, I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I think they make Daniel this successful character and Johnny this not so successful character. But if you look back at the way they were brought up through life, it's pretty believable. You know what I mean? Yeah. Danielson had these great role models and support in his life and friendships, and Johnny did not. So when they grow up and one's successful and one's not, you can kind of connect that to the first picture. But to answer your question, though, not to get off on a super big tangent
that's fine.
To answer your question, my dream project, I would want to make the Expendables of B movies, except my way. I would want to get.
I would watch that.
I would want to get, Oliver Grunner, who I love, who did movies like Angel Town and Nemesis. I'd love to get Michael Dudikoff, who did American Ninja. I'd love to get Matthias Hughes, who seems like a wonderful man. I've talked to him a couple times, and again, I don't shoot SAG for my pictures, so it never really worked out that I could work with some of these guys, like a Lauren Avedon or Matthias Hughes, who are obviously SAG union actors. Martin Kove, I love Martin Kove, who played John Kreese, the evil karate teacher in Karate Kid. So I would like to get like an Expendables of B type movies, if you will, together and do like this. But I think it would center around probably some kind of ninja storyline kind of thing. And you know what? I think I would probably base it off of American Ninja, except I would make like this new American Ninja. And I would kind of run along with the theme I have, and it's making badass female characters. I think I would make the American Ninja a female, and Michael Dudikoff like a tutor mentor type role, and then go into this big Expendables of B movies type thing where I get all these actors, the Jeff Speakmans of the world, the Oliver Grunners, the Lauren Avedons, the Michael Dudikoffs, all those guys, and we would miss Steve James, who died far too young of pancreatic cancer. I think he died of Michael Dudikoff's sidekick in a lot of his movies in canon. Like Avenging Force, which is one of my favorite movies. But I think that would be my dream project, is a ninja-based movie where I could get all these straight to home video for the most part style martial art and action people, and get them together and do it. And
dude.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
That sounds like 100 times better than the actual Expendables movie.
Yeah.
I liked the first one a lot. I'm a Stallone fan. I like a lot of his works, and I thought the original idea was awesome. I thought the second one was even okay when they brought in Van Damme, who I thought was good in it. But But for me, if you gave me anything what I wanted to do, and I go back to like directors and stuff, when people will get into on like a Reddit forum or something like that, and Len, the Kubrick of this and that. I never wanted to be Kubrick or Spielberg, though. That's just the thing. Yeah. I never wanted to be them. I wanted to be Fred Olen Ray. I wanted to be Jim Wynorski. I wanted to be Kurt Anderson. All these like action or sci-fi or horror movie directors, like Don Dohler. That's who I wanted to be. I never wanted to be Spielberg. I didn't need millions and millions of dollars of budget and stuff like that because I never wanted to be that. I wanted to be like my heroes growing up, like the Fred Olen Rays of the world and everything else. Those are the movies I want to make. And, I did a podcast last year, and it actually appears as a bonus feature on the Curse of the Wolf DVD, I believe. I'm sorry that the name of the podcast escapes me because I've done a lot of them lately. But he even said when he was talking to me, he's like, Len, when you've like surpassed your heroes now in terms of quality in film and stuff like that. When you talk, and I was going to tear up, so I'm glad the video wasn't on because that's all I ever wanted to be, was to be like my heroes. The films that I loved growing up, and I don't feel I'm there, but people talk to me, and I'm in the conversation with a lot of people I really idolized growing up, and when you say, well, Len, I watched a movie like Angel of Reckoning right after I watched Chopping Mall or something, I'm like, man, that brings tears to my eyes, man, because those are films I love. That's the stuff I really, really love. On a Saturday night, I'm not watching a movie like The Piano. I'm watching Dead Heat with Joe Piscopo and Treat Williams, right? Or I'm watching Chopping Mall, directed by Jim Wynorski and starring Kelly Maroney. Those are the types of things I'm doing. What do I watch day in and day out? I watch Amazon Prime. I watch shitty ass B movies and indie movies on Amazon Prime. And you know what? I might not be Spielberg, and I might never be Kubrick and those kinds of things. But you know what? They'll never be me. Because they'll never know what King of the Kickboxers is. They'll never know what martial outlaw means. They'll never know what no retreat, no surrender means. And I would never want my life to be without those films. You know what I mean? So if you said, Len, you could be Kubrick, but you'd have to give up King of the Kickboxers, fuck that. I would never do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because we were watching Swamp Zombies, and we were like just pissing ourselves laughing, but not at the movie, more at like just like a great time that we were having.
Oh, I would laugh at the movie. You can say it. Believe me, I'm not offended at all. So you can say it. I laugh at the movie.
You keep saying like, you didn't watch this version. I'm so sorry for you. It's like, please don't be, because it like the most fun I've had watching a movie in so long. And I was just thinking about it, like, with regards to what you wanted to accomplish and where you fall in line with films and indie films and that kind of stuff. In a contemporary sense, you're at the top of your game. Like, I'd say, just out of all the competitors that you have against you with, in terms of more modern kind of B movies and that kind of stuff, and low budget action films, it's like you're up there, and it's like you are able to constantly deliver. When watching Swamp Zombies, I think there's this small portion in the end where I think we just got too drunk or whatever, but it seemed to trail off a little bit at the end. But apart from that, we enjoyed the movie like throughout, and it kept throwing curveballs at us, and we loved it. So the interesting thing that I had to say is, obviously, you seem to have a really genuine passion for these kinds of films. And kind of like, smaller type productions where they're ambitious but they're fun. And so how does it feel, I suppose, knowing that your films now are more predominantly watched by kind of late teens, 20-somethings who watch these things partly out of complete, I think, irony, but also partly out of genuine enjoyment of these kind of films, because you've got this mixed audience now where there are people who love you in an ironic fashion, people who love you because in a genuine fashion because of these kinds of entertaining films that you bring. So that would be more my question directed at you, and where do you see yourself publicly?
Funny, I'll answer that last part first in terms of seeing publicly, because I'm on Facebook and things like that. And I guess Facebook, what I learned recently is they have a cap. This sounds really stupid to me, but it's the truth. And they have a cap on the number of friends you can have. So yeah. I reached 5,000 friends, and they tell me I can't have friends anymore, that I have to become a public figure. But that's really not my style. I don't see myself as a public figure. I see myself as just somebody that loves movies and likes, watching movies and bad movies and or fun bad movies. I don't see myself as a public figure really, and people are like, well, then you should just do it, blah blah blah. I don't think I'm going to. I'm not going to be a public figure because it's just that's not my style. I'm a punk rock rebel. I'll always be that, and I don't really want to change who I am just because Facebook is telling me to do something. But so that's to answer that part of the question. But in terms of like younger people watching my films because they've been exposed to like Red Letter Media or things or other podcasts I've done, that kind of thing. I think super. If I mentioned earlier in this podcast with you guys that I'm surprised that people still talk about Swamp Zombies, the first one, which is now 14 years old. And that's a good thing, in terms of an indie movie. Name me another indie movie not named The Room, which had millions of dollars of budget. That's a seven-figure budget movie or whatever. Name me another indie film that was made on 10 grand that's still talked about 14 or 15 years later. I consider myself pretty good at movie trivia, and I would have difficulty answering that question. And so, that part, in terms of a younger audience coming in, come aboard, come message me on Twitter and shit like that. I'm not a Neil Breen that doesn't know how to use Twitter effectively. I know how to communicate with fans and stuff like that. And
I must say I was pretty disappointed we didn't get to see your ballsack in the movie.
Well, I might have to go sack for sack with Breen maybe in the future. We'll see. Never say never, my friend. Because if I do my Expendables Ninja movie, if the distributor or somebody wants me to have nudity in the film, and I've got to put my sack out there, I'm not saying never say never. So, but no, Breen, God bless you. I love Double Down, and let me tell you, Breen, if you're listening to this, you should be. I absolutely adore the first few minutes of Fateful Findings. It was a cinematic masterpiece. Yeah. And I absolutely was one of my favorite cinematic experiences fucking ever. So Fateful Findings, everybody, check it out. But in terms of the younger fans, I love it. If they get enjoyment out of my work, I can't tell you how many emails I get about Curse of the Wolf or something like that. But and people tell me when I look back at my early films, which ones do I really love, or do I, I really don't watch my work a lot. But if I play a show or I do like a charity event or something like that, I'll peruse it, or I'll sit in with the audience for a minute and watch stuff. But I've got a lot of love for Fist of the Vampire. I think the fight scenes in that, show me another movie made for $6 grand on an indie level that's going to have fight scenes like that. I'm pretty proud of the fight scenes in Fist of the Vampire, actually. And I mean, there's Swamp Zombies and stuff like that. Like you mentioned, the choreography and stuff in Swamp Zombies 1. That was intentional too, in terms of, we wanted to be different though. I wanted to come in to the genre and show something different. There wasn't these indie horror movies out there that had like fight scenes in them. You know what I mean? And they're like, well, then you tried to do a serious movie and failed. It's like The Room question. Was he a comedic genius or was he just an idiot? Well, I'll tell you, you don't make a movie called Swamp Zombies and expect to see Empire Strikes Back. You know what I mean? So it's called Swamp Zombies. I mean, when I was writing it, it was meant to be, campy anyways. And maybe it fails on that respect. But I mean, in terms of like the fun meter on the movie, I was trying to direct a fun movie. I was trying to direct this like serious picture or something like that. But we loved it.
You accomplished it. We got so much entertainment out of that, and if I could do that night again, I would, because it's so great. I wanted to go back to the comment you made earlier. I hope Neil Breen is listening to this, because I would really love to interview him on this show.
He's an elusive guy, though. Neil doesn't do a lot of stuff. I mean, outside of Neil's got to get on the podcast train, man. He's got to get out there and promote better. But I don't know what his lifestyle is or whatever. If he's in like real estate or what his day job is, if he has a day job, that kind of, maybe he just doesn't have to. You know what I mean? So.
He's a god.
I work at a hospital. Most people think I work at like PetSmart or something like that. But I'm sure that's a fantastic company to work with. But I don't work at PetSmart. I've worked at a hospital for 11 years now. I've worked at a hospital in rehab. So physical rehab is my day job. So I work a lot with like exercise science and stuff like that. I love exercise, obviously. I love martial arts. I love filmmaking, obviously, but I am a dad and a martial artist first, and a filmmaker after that. But I put a lot. I put all. I don't put a lot. I put all. I put all my heart into it. But when people say, "Well, Len, you like these kind of pictures from the '80s or whatever, or this style movie or whatever," but I don't want to be considered old school or new school. I want to be all school. And when I do my next picture, which I mentioned, Challenge of Five Gauntlets, it's a '70s throwback in terms of like a simple martial art kind of story kind of thing, but the photography will be modern. The cinematography and stuff will be modern, but this story itself will be very much a late '70s kind of Shaw Brothers throwback. So yeah.
Oh, the part about the job I think I find is most interesting, because you're actually you're a martial artist yourself, aren't you? In separate from the camera, separate from Jack from Salt Movies, you practice martial arts, and I saw on Twitter, because I had to do a bit of research going in, that you do you go to martial arts events and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I still go to tournaments. This past year, I didn't compete as much as I normally do. I just competed last weekend, actually, and did fairly well at a tournament in Ohio by Kent State University. So yeah, that was a good weekend. I felt good. I took 3 second places there. But I'm actually in the Pennsylvania Karate Ratings Association. I'm a 7-time state champion in Pennsylvania. I've got 4 state titles in kata. I've got 2 state titles in fighting, and I've got another state title in weapons. So I've had a good run. But I think going into it, I've got the itch again to try to win another state title. So, but the competition season doesn't restart. It's just ending now, and it restarts again in November. But to try to win state titles, it's hard because you're competing all the time, or you're competing every 5 or 6 weeks sometimes, which can be tough. But I'm ready to do it again, and it's just like filmmaking, though. You get a passion for something, and it's not like I have a passion for 85 different things in my life. I've got a passion for maybe 4 or 5 different things in my life. so I can fit in some karate tournaments, 12 a year or whatever it takes to try to win a state title. But yeah, I'm a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo, and I like competing in traditional kata, empty hand forms. I love competing in weapons, but I'm not really super adept in weapons. I compete in kamas, which are like sickles, like little farming sickles looking things, which I've competed. But I've competed with nunchucks and things before. But my favorite is the kamas, the sickles. So I'll compete in weapons with that, and then obviously I fight. So and I'm on a I teach at Team TKO Erie, which is run by Master Arrington, who's also been in some of my pictures, like Apocalypse Female Warriors or Bound by Blood Wendigo. My instructor, my fighting coach, if you will, is in those movies as well. So I've got a good network where I'm at, and I'm really fortunate to be have accomplished what I have accomplished. When I was even 18 years old, just kind of going back to Taekwondo and starting to kind of dabble in competition, but really only doing a couple here and there. I didn't really know if I'd be good enough to win a trophy, let alone walk into my trophy room today and have 120 trophies. So I've had a good run, but I'm not ready for it to be over yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like an asshole because I've been talking for most of this. I have another question that I wanted to ask, but does anyone have one just before I throw it out there?
Yeah, I do.
Go for it, please.
I'm thinking of this question, see if we can all answer. After, obviously, Len answers this one. Basically, it's pretty simple. Who is your favorite, big name or even Hollywood director?
In terms of directing, I mean, obviously, for me personally, it would be like a Fred Olen Ray, who's done a lot of B-movie action movies. So probably Fred Olen Ray would be number one, because in terms of the 80s, and he got to work several times with my favorite American actor, which was the late David Carradine, who is my favorite actor. I love David Carradine. I have hundreds of his movies on VHS.
He was he was in normal movie budget movies, but also in B movies, right?
Oh, he was, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very much like his father. Same thing. 1 minute he'd be in a movie like Bird on a Wire with Mel Gibson, which is a big theatrical release, and the next minute he'd be doing like Future Zone, where he's wearing a weird power glove beating up people in an AIP film shot in Alabama somewhere. So he had a strange career like that, but Kung Fu really got the ball rolling for me when he did the Kung Fu show, which was my all-time favorite television program. I like The Incredible Hulk a lot with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno, but Kung Fu with David Carradine is probably my favorite, television program. I think the message it sends is great. I love the philosophy behind the show, all that kind of stuff. And I know, a lot of people that are like Bruce Lee fans will be like, it was meant to be Bruce Lee's show.
I was about to say that.
Okay, and here's all I have to say on this. And I'm not a Bruce Lee hater by any fashion or form. But if you're a Bruce Lee fan that hates on David Carradine for that, I'll say this. And this is just my opinion. I'm a nobody, but my opinion. Bruce Lee could have never pulled off like the acting complexity of a character like Kwai Chai Caine. David Carradine is an actor.
No, I haven't seen the series. I'm sorry.
Okay, good. Yeah, it was meant to be like Bruce Lee's series, and then they decided that with the Vietnam War going on and other things that were happening culturally at the time, that America wasn't really ready for him to be a lead in that kind of program.
I knew about that fact because I looked up a biography, but I didn't see the actual Kung Fu series, which I will now.
Yeah, I think David Carradine was pretty much the perfect choice for that show at that time and everything, and the acting and stuff. I don't. There's certain roles in any movie, really in any time frame, that you can see and you can't picture another actor or actress doing them. And Kwai Chai Caine is one of those roles. I can't see another actor playing him but David Carradine. Much like, I mentioned The Incredible Hulk. I mean, who else really could have been Bruce Banner but Bill Bixby? To me, nobody could have. And I know they made the shitty Ang Lee movie and stuff like that, but I mean, really, Bill Bixby was David Banner. I mean, or Bruce Banner, if you will, from the comics. There's roles like that. I mentioned I do a Fist of the Filmmaker podcast for my Patreon campaign, and on it recently I mentioned. Those kinds of pictures and things like that. And you couldn't picture, like The Matrix, for example, I mentioned in the podcast. Who could be Neo but Keanu Reeves? Nobody could. No. I mean, nobody could. That visual now is so strong of that character of Neo. Who could really be Neo but Keanu? Whether you like him or not, I mean, nobody could. Or like John Wick now, his presence as an actor is so strong. Nobody could be John Wick but Keanu. It's just iconic. Not possible.
Nobody could dislike Keanu.
What was your reaction to John Wick? When did you know you got gripped in that movie?
It was. I liked it. I saw it at the theaters right when it came out. In fact, I might have even went opening night for it. But with John Wick, I was won over pretty much right off the bat. And again, when you think about it, and you really dissect a movie like John Wick, it's really not much different than a 70s style kung fu picture. Because the story is very simple. It's very direct. It's your basic kind of revenge style picture with a strong lead performance. It's not much different than it doesn't have all the karate action of a 70s picture, obviously.
It's all in the choreography, like those old movies.
Correct.
It's all in the choreography. And for example, the ending of the second one, don't you think it got ripped from, not ripped, but homage from Enter the Dragon?
I could see that. I could definitely see the reference there of something like that.
Yeah. Not ripped, but referenced. Sorry, I was geeky.
If that is true and it really was in some form or shape or form meant to be a reference, good for them. I say fuck you out of that, because you know what, you know your roots from there. You know what I mean?
I think it was, and I think it was for the roots. I want to believe that, because it's a beautiful, beautiful series that we have, and we're lucky to have that in nowadays, I think.
I am in 100% agreement with you.
Oh, what are your hopes for the third?
My hopes, actually, my hopes for the third is more martial arts, to be honest. I mean, coming from Len, that's a big surprise, but I would like to see less guns and more fight scene type stuff, because, they brought in Daniel Bernhardt, who was in legendary bad B movie, fun bad B movie called Future War.
Yes.
And then he went on to do like a stint as I forget what character he was in the Mortal Kombat web series. There, he was in that. Daniel Bernhardt, and he was in The Matrix. He was the one that fought Lawrence Fishburne on the top of the bus or whatever it was in the one scene. So I was really excited to see Daniel Bernhardt in it. And when he fought Keanu in, was it the first or second one? They kind of meshed together a little bit, but he fights Keanu in it, and he actually defeats him in the movie. And I thought, wow, that's what respect they have for like a karate actor like that, to realize that John Wick's not just going to fight everybody and win, that he could fight superior fighters and lose. And he does in that scene. Daniel Bernhardt throws him off the balcony in a nightclub or something like that. And it's so if anything for John Wick 3, I'd like to see more martial arts and less guns, but keep going with a good thing though. I love both of them, and I just hope they keep it rolling, because I think it's a really cool series.
Well, that's interesting. I was going to say that's interesting because I like John Wick. The one negative I'd say with regards to that is CG is a wonderful thing, but I think a reliance on CG gore because it's cheap and clean, it really takes me out of a film because you don't feel the impact as much, doesn't feel as visceral.
It decreases a lot the immersion.
Sorry?
It decreases a lot the immersion, actually.
Yeah, exactly, because you can tell it's fake. It's quite emotionless, and you're very detached from the action going on. And I was wondering on what your stance is when it comes to not CG per se, but like practical effects, when it's just the difference between having a squib and having like a chroma keyed blood splatter, that kind of
right
thing.
Well, a lot of that is budgetary stuff too in these days, and for an A-list film there's not a bunch of excuses really. They should probably have, but I mean back in the 80s and 90s though, to do like squibs, you had to have a pyrotechnic license to do those. It's actually a charged effect, if you will. And those fuckers hurt. I mean, when you have a squib attached to your chest and you get shot, like imagine the guy in Beverly Hills Cop or whatever that gets shot 1,000,000 times at the end. The guy that played the Russian colonel in Rambo, Steve Burkhoff. That shit had to hurt because he was probably rigged with like 20 squibs popping off all over his body, and that stuff does not tickle. Yeah. So if you don't know what a real electronic like charged squib feels like, it doesn't tickle. So it's I'm not a big CGI guy, but again, I'm an 80s kid, so I'm used to the blood splatter and squibs and all that kind of stuff, where there wasn't much CGI back then. So I think in an action picture, it kind of hurts it, like you mentioned in a film like John Wick, when you overdo some kind of CGI thing. Or another example of this on a really lazy effort would be like newer Steven Seagal movies that overuse green screen, and really shitty green screen at that. It's just pretty lazy, and it kind of alienates your audience eventually. But like, I loved Steven Seagal in the late 80s and early 90s, and then he became, and it's not so much about, he's fat and stuff now. He's a 65-year-old man or whatever now, and he's not small. He's like 6'5" or something like that. So he's not little dude. If he gains some weight, I can live with that. But when you get lazy in filmmaking, that I can't support. Yeah. And I think out of all of his direct-to-video movies, I've probably seen maybe 3 of them, and he probably has 20 of them. You know what I mean? So
he's getting job. He's getting job to that.
I think that would probably answer your question best about how I feel about the CGI stuff. And I love Steven Seagal, but you know what? When you just the shitty, lazy CGI stuff, I don't even watch his stuff anymore. So that should answer your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else have any questions?
I did want to say that it's not a question, but we haven't talked that much about Swamp Zombies. Not like we have to. I just wanted to say that really honestly, I did really enjoy the whole self-awareness aspect to it. Okay, so obviously the we looked it up. Maybe Patrick got the wrong information. The actress who has the scene, I think she's the secretary or co-worker of the evil doctor, Dr. Phillips.
She's assistant.
Is it true that the actress is a porn actress?
Yeah, that's Jasmine St. Clair that plays little Lillian in the film. Yeah, that's Jasmine St. Clair. Yeah.
That's one aspect that I appreciated a lot, and not the porn factor, but the factor that it's that B movie factor. It's just get the hottest chick you can just for that scene.
Yeah.
Just that quirk, the gimmick, the same with the bloody cookie.
I will say the bloody cookie thing usually gets a laugh, and that's why we did that gag. So
when I watched it, I couldn't stop screaming. Oh my fucking god!
We just couldn't understand why someone would do that to the blood of a jacket.
But I'll say this with Jasmine St. Clair, obviously, and you said it best. It was a gimmick, and to be honest, it was meant to be that gimmick when I hire a person like that, because I want that all those fans that came from adult films or porn films to come in and watch my movie. Now, it didn't really unfold that way, but that was my line of thinking. Get people that have a fan base and bring them to my movie. Whether it's UFC or WWF or porn or whatever, get those fans to see my film. But in terms of Jasmine St. Clair coming in and playing that, she was complete professional. She knew her lines, came in. I mean, every super professional, in and out. I think she was on set for like 2 days for that character. But she was super nice to everybody, respectful, knew her lines, knew her stuff, came in, bang, 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 done. And I have no complaints. I would work with her again. So
it was interesting watching it, because obviously we saw St. Clair and this kind of stuff, and this is before any sex happened in the film, and we were like, man, Len Kabasinski, he's just made this porn film. Like, he's been given this porn script, but he's taken out all the sex. Like, I can't believe this. And then all that came over later, and it just got so goofy and funny. It was great. But
that's the thing. That's the thing about Swamp Zombies. When people today, again, the movie, it was the first thing I ever did in 2004. And, when people say, well, I got alcohol and my friends together and watched it and had a blast. And I'm like, you know what? That's the best compliment you could give me, because that's what I do. When we get off this podcast, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put on some shitty werewolf movie on Amazon Prime and have some absolute vodka and enjoy myself. So when you talk about people that, we had beers and stuff and had my friends over and had a blast watching your shitty movie, that's a compliment to me, because that's what I would do. So...
No, we absolutely we enjoyed it, because we kind of we saw the title, we saw your Red Letter Media appearances, we saw and we just knew we guessed that's how we should have enjoyed it. And honestly, when we were watching it, we just guessed the destiny of a lot of the characters. I remember the weed. Okay, so you had the high school people, and there was a guy who was destined to take out a joint or take out some weed. So it was funny, because we were going.
You're talking about Zolt Farkas,
long-haired.
Yeah. That's Zolt. That's Zolt is the actor's name. Yeah.
It was like having an interaction with the movie. It was as if the movie was speaking to us, because we okay, and Patryk is gonna support me on this. As soon as I or him said, oh, but why hasn't this happened yet? As soon as we said that, okay, so this is the guy with the weed, or this woman looks kind of like a porn actress, or stuff like that. As soon as we said that, the scenes happened and the beats happened, and it was like a prediction. The movie was answering us.
Well, speaking of prediction, I've got something you guys might enjoy then. Right. It was not filmed, but in the original script. Spoiler here, everybody. In the original script, it was not filmed because the ending was changed. In the original script, everybody dies in the end. Yeah. Jack, everybody dies. So, what the ending of the film was going to be is it kind of ends at what you see. They're at the police station. They're being interrogated, kind of thing. Yeah. So they're in the police station. They're being interrogated as like a group. And as the camera pulls away, you see guns and stuff on the officers that are interrogating them, and it's meant to be implied that they shoot and kill the remaining survivors. But that was not filmed, thankfully, or we wouldn't have a Swarm Zombies 2. So
Well, the one.
It was Go
the
ahead.
one. Sorry, I was gonna say the one that got me was when they're just about to call like the state police and that kind of stuff. And we're like, okay, so this is a little rural community, and like they have this little zombie outbreak, and they're fully aware of the situation. It's like, why haven't they called like a higher authority or like gone to the city or something?
or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's like, is it fine for us to just keep killing unarmed civilians as far as we know? And then, like immediately as they said
to Len.
It was fantastic. I got so much enjoyment out of that bit. We just giggled. I wish we'd recorded that and like just
I hope you guys check out the second one because it's drastically different.
Absolutely.
We will.
So I will, and I will contact you as soon as I have.
And Swamp Zombies 2 is drastically different. It was written by Newt Wallen for the most part. He wrote probably 80% of the script. And Jack is back, but he is the only returning cast member. It's just Jack. And basically the story kind of centers around now in the future. There is like a Survivor-ish like reality TV show, except on the TV show you have to survive a zombie apocalypse, essentially, like a man-made created zombie apocalypse. You're trying to survive it on the program. And then there's a renegade contestant in the program that's trying to like take it down as like it's unethical, like an animal rights activist, somebody like that. Except they're from PETA, which is People for the Ethical Treatment of Zombies. So they're trying to like take down the show. So they send in Lisa Neld, the actress from Skull Forest, and a couple of my other pictures, Hellcat's Revenge, Playboy Centerfold, Lisa Neld, and she kind of fails. Spoiler there, but she fails at it. So the producer of the TV show is left with no other choice but to break Jack out of a Black Ops prison, top secret prison, and send him into the show and try to find this person. And so it's a completely wild, different story. But again, it's shot on the C100. The lighting is good, all that kind of stuff. So there's some good production value in it for an indie horror action picture. So I really, really, really am excited now for you guys to watch it and let me know.
It sounds like a mixture. Sounds like a mixture between Dead Rising 2 and Escape from New York.
And you're probably the fourth person to say Escape from New York, and that warms my heart to a degree because I love that picture. So
I was going to say George Romero has nothing on you in terms of social commentary in zombie movies.
Actually, you mentioned that when I got an AMA question recently about, as an actor, as a performer, what if I could do something, like remake or whatever, what would I do? Put me as Snake Plissken or Iron Fist. Those are my two favorite cinematic characters or comic book characters. I love them both. I was extremely disappointed with the Iron Fist show that was on Netflix. I thought, oh man, this could have been awesome. But it wasn't, and so be it. That's performing arts, though. You're going to swing and a miss. Yeah. Not everybody's going to love everything that you do. That's performing arts. I mean, if you can't take it when somebody rips on your stuff, then you probably shouldn't do performing arts because it's an acquired taste. So, but I love the Escape from New York reference. Yeah. Definitely an awesome movie.
One question I have.
You go ahead, and then I'll ask mine.
Yeah, thanks. One question I have is, what are some of your favorite moments from Some Zombies? Because, for example, my favorite moment would easily be what was the kid's name? Robbie? He turns into a zombie, he grabs Jack, and Jack, for absolutely no reason, just for this kid grabbing him, absolutely breaks his arm, and even puts the bone out. Moments like that, what are your favorite ones, basically?
Just to comment on that moment real quick, I can't remember. That might be edited out of the Amazon Prime version, the 85-minute version. But though, in the script, it was meant to be, and it just didn't film. It didn't film this way, obviously. But Robbie was supposed to be like lunging towards Jack, so he was trying to like bite him, and Jack boots him. But when you watch that version now, it just looks like Jack kicks him in the face, but for no reason. But actually, in the script, it was meant to be that he was like lunging, trying to bite Jack, and Jack boots him in the face, and it obviously didn't come across that way. But my favorite moment, not so much in the film itself, but is just looking back upon it. You know, when we were filming that, so many people, cast and crew, had a blast filming it. I mean, I remember the one character of Monica, who was like my female park ranger in the film. Monica Picarello is the name of the actress.
Badass character.
Oh,
Yeah. I remember as it was time to film her last scenes, she was like, man, I just don't want this to end. This is so much fun filming this and doing this. And it's the first picture I ever did. And here I have somebody saying they don't want it to end because they're having so much fun. And that means something, you know, when I do this stuff. I want my cast and crew to have fun when they're doing these things. And that was a good example of it. So I think what I took away from Swamp Zombies 1 was, man, I should have my head examined for trying to have a cast of like 85 people. But 2, a lot of people had a lot of fun doing that picture, and some are still my friends to this day. So the connections you make in filmmaking can be lasting, and learning is endless. I mean, we had mentioned making mistakes and stuff before, but you know, you're always going to make those, and it's a matter of just kind of showing improvement with what you're trying to do. And I think I've done that through the years. I think from picture to picture to picture, they might not all be, you know, you might see a movie like Bound by Blood Wendigo, which was, I think, the 5th movie I ever did, or 4th or 5th movie I ever did. And maybe it's not as fun, zany as a Swamp Zombies, but technically speaking, I think you would notice some improvements in it. But you know, that's what it's about to me. But from Swamp to give a final answer to your question about Swamp Zombies, yeah, I remember. The thing I remember most is a lot of people having a lot of fun doing it. So, and that means something.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great.
What was your question going to be, Alvaro?
Well, first of all, I want to say my favorite thing, whole thing out of Swamp Zombies is this fight scene right next to a car, and I remember a head getting smashed into a car car window, and I loved the shot and the edit, because I really enjoyed the fight scenes and how they built character out of that. Well, but like the head getting smashed through the window, and I was like, oof, that was the biggest blow.
I have a good story about that too. My special effects artist was going to make a candy glass, a fake glass window. But my friend, the actual actor that Jimmy Chrisman is his name. Miss you, Jimmy. So call me sometime, buddy. Jimmy, who plays that zombie in that, had said, Len, I can get this prop that you want. And I said, okay. So he went out and got a window and stuff like that. So I thought he got what I told him to get, which was a fake, you know, like a prop window, something that was going to shatter. Well, in actuality, I think all Jimmy really did was went to a junkyard and got a real window, and then we rolled down the window.
Felt real.
It did, and how he broke it was underneath his shirt, he has duct taped a crowbar. So when he goes to lead into the window, the crowbar hits it and smashes the window. So, but it took probably 4 or 5 times to bust the window. And after about the 3rd time, I realized that Jimmy didn't go out and get a fake window. He just didn't tell me that he went and got a real window. and he's a tough dude. I mean, a lot of the fighters I work with are, you know, real life tough guys and stuff. So, but still, you know, there's a safety element to it. You know, I want to be careful with things and all that. And I've got all these tough guys that are like, Len, just boot me in the stomach, or Len, just do this. So, but a lot of the guys I fight, I trust. I mean, I've worked with several times. A lot of the guys I fight. So, and it leads into Swamp Zombies 2, where there's this big prison fight scene at the beginning of the movie, and a lot of the actors I fought with before and trust and stuff, and Jimmy was like that. But Jimmy, I think, went out and got a real window, duct taped a crowbar under his shirt, and was going to forearm the window and have it bust. And after a few times, it didn't. And I'm like, Jimmy, you know, this is not a window, is it? And so, you know, the only time it busted, thank God we got it, because my brother Steven is running camera, and he's sitting inside the car, and he's not even looking. He framed the shot and had his eyes closed, because it's like one of those things, actual breaks, you don't really know that exact point that's going to happen. So you don't want to jump or be scared or just have a natural flinch kind of reaction. So he set the camera and just closed his eyes and sat there. And I said, Jimmy, you know, this isn't busting. I'm gonna give you some oomph to it, meaning I'm gonna actually throw him into the window, which before in the other takes I was not, because in choreography, you know, when my hands are on him, they're just kind of there for the ride. I'm not really forcefully throwing him or anything. Yeah. So, but for the take that it busted, I said, you know, Jimmy, I'm gonna heave-ho-ya here. So I grabbed him and I threw his ass through the window, and and it worked out. So, but that's my story.
It looks amazing on the film.
That's how it feels. Like yeah. It feels like a real window, and it feels like you really threw him.
Well,
that's amazing.
Yep, thank you, actor Jimmy Chrisman, because he pretty much was the pivotal actor in that scene.
And he was pivotal for the special effects too. Nice. Yep. I'm sorry, I have the question. Escape from New York or Escape from LA?
Escape from New York, but as a film and for obvious reasons. But I don't hate Escape from LA either, though. I like that picture too. But Escape from New York is a classic.
I figured you'd be more of an Escape from LA guy. Also, I hope you don't mind me being rude, but I'm not nearly as drunk enough as I should be for this. So, do you have Captain Morgan's in America?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm just pouring myself a glass of this, but I don't have a shot glass on me. I only have a pint glass. So.
I am enjoying a vanilla absolute. I'm a vodka person. I enjoy my whiskey and stuff, but I kind of hang around vodka, especially now where I'm kind of starting to cut weight as I go into Challenge of 5 gauntlets. I stay in shape year round, but if I'm cutting 5 to 7 pounds or something, I know what I have to watch and what I don't. So I'm on vodka for a little while, anyways.
I'm trying to lose a bit of weight myself, actually, and I know that you're like a big fitness guy, so I was wondering if maybe you could recommend me or tell me if I'm going on the right track. So I'm about 6'1.5", but I'm 15 stone, and there's a lot of like loose skin I'd rather not have. So I'm trying to hit the gym now and cut down on what I eat. But today alone, I've had like 5 slices of banana bread that my girlfriend made me, and it's just I'm not going the right way at all. But I'm a fussy eater, and when I go to the gym, I can maybe do half an hour on the treadmill. So I was wondering, what kind of workout regime would you recommend me to lose weight as fast as possible?
A lot of it is everybody's body's different, but I mean, a lot of times I'd say for like, you got to think about shedding water weight and stuff like that. A lot of times low carb dieting is really good at shedding water weight quickly. Because that's how fighters and stuff do it. If you're fighting at 185, let's say you have a fight and you're 185 pounds, you got to fight at. Most of those guys probably walk around every day at like 210, 220, something like that. So they're dropping like 30 pounds to fight. But you got to figure there a half of that at least is probably just water weight that they got to cut. So a lot of times they're doing that by lowering their carbs, and you're just going to piss out a lot of water and shit like that. So yeah, I know, like right now, I know for Challenge of 5 gauntlets, I want to be at like 165. And right now I'm about 172, 173. So I'm pretty close. Yeah. And I know if I low carb it for a few days, I'm going to cut that extra weight. But I don't want to cut too much too soon. But like throughout the day, though, I'm used to being a little bit hungry, and I treat that like I treat art or anything else. I think being a little bit hungry is an okay thing. And, that drive and determination and stuff, just you got to go out and grab it. But I'd say for losing weight, though, it's a lot of like lowering your calories and increasing your cardio, because not that weightlifting and stuff isn't important, but you don't burn as many calories doing that stuff as you do like cardio work. So it's about really sweating and hitting the cardio and the treadmill and the elliptical machines and stuff and lowering your calories, and you'll start to body sculpt, that way.
Would you recommend, sorry, I'm going off the topic of film here, but would you recommend keto?
I don't even know what that is.
It's like a type of diet.
Ketogenics. Yeah. It's basically you lower your carbohydrate intake to about 20 grams per day. You're moderate with your protein, but your main source of what your body burns when you do cardio is fats, like butter and eggs and that kind of stuff. And
sure, I mean that makes sense. I mean, I could see, there's positives and negatives about every diet out there. I mean, 10 years, 15 years ago, it was all Atkins diet stuff, low carb stuff.
Oh my God, yeah.
But when I would do super low carb stuff, my brain does not function. I mean, I'm just like a zombie. So, I'd say the thing I stick to the most is like zone kind of dieting, where it's maybe 40% protein, 30 carbs, 30 fat, or something like that. But everybody's body reacts differently. I know people that probably haven't had a carb in 3 years and they're fine. Me, I don't have a carb for 2 days and I'm like brain dead. So, you just got to figure out what kind of works for you. But in terms of losing weight, for like me, when I'm cutting weight, it's really just like total calories. I don't really get into the percentages too much. It's total calories in and total calories burned going out is how I approach, getting ready for a film or if I'm cutting weight for a competition or something. So
that's solid advice. Thank you.
Considering you just gave Patryk this load of advice, it's about losing weight, but I wanted to ask you, what kind of advice would you give the three of us, considering, for example, Patryk, who is already doing a short film, Alvaro, who's done photography, and Alvaro, as far as I understand, you also want to do film?
I want to join a film school, yes, and I've done a couple of videos, and sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and to me, who I've done some music videos and animations, and I'm working on the script for my first animated short film. What kind of advice would you give the three of us to kind of stay not motivated, because that obviously isn't forever, but to kind of be able to continue?
The big thing, and I've gotten a question like this before, and I'll definitely give you the same answer. The biggest piece of advice I can give you is simply this. Fuck what anybody says about you or what you're doing. You know what? You have to be yourself, because when you make it, when it's done and people are there and they're supporting it and they're there for you, those people will be there for you forever. They will. Fuck what people say and think about your works or yourself, and just do it. Because in the long run, when you do make it, people are going to still support you because they love you for being you. They love you for that honesty and that attempt at what you're doing and the things you love and putting your heart and your soul into your works and stuff. Those people will always be there, and that's a good thing. So I would never let somebody steer me in a direction to try to be something that I'm not, kind of thing. And you get all these cliches and stuff, the stay true to yourself kind of things. I don't need to do that. I know what I love. I don't need somebody to tell me that. You know what I mean? I know the movies I love. I know the things I love in life. I don't need that kind of advice. But the thing of advice I think is good is people will love you for you when you put yourself out there in creative arts, and whether it's film or sculpture or painting or drawing or whatever it is. And in our case, what we're talking about, it's film. But I think when I do a picture like Fist of the Vampire or even more recently with Hellcat's Revenge or Angel of Reckoning, people see that this is who Len is, and that's a good thing, because now they're still there for me. They still realize, hey, we love Len for Len. I don't have to go out and put a porn star in my film anymore if I don't want to. I don't have to go out and put a UFC fighter in my film anymore, because people aren't watching my films for that. They're actually watching them for me, and that's a good thing. And my advice is, don't underestimate the power of the people that believe in you, because they're not going to believe in who your actors and actresses are and stuff like that you put in your picture, because that might change from time to time, whether it's music videos or feature pictures or short pictures, whatever it may be. Actors and actresses and cast and crew, that's going to change throughout the years, and that's a natural process. But the one constant that doesn't change in all your pictures is going to be you. And the people that'll follow you there are going to stay there for you. So that would be my advice, is fuck what people say and think about your stuff, and just really, be you about it, because the people are going to stay there with you.
That's really wholesome.
This is wonderful, because I think it's a pretty good way to do the first episode. I mean, you can take it symbolically for film, but also for the first episode of this podcast, and it really makes me hopeful. And thank you, Len, for that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah.
I appreciate you guys having me. It was a blast. We should do it again sometime down the road.
Fantastic.
Totally. We want to watch your whole filmography now.
Len is going to be a constant returning guest, definitely.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, the big thing is now, like I said, I've got my Patreon. That's at patreon.com/KillerWolfFilms. I do my own content. It's not something as elaborate as some of these other Patreon campaigns, but I do new stuff every month. I do a Fist of the Filmmaker podcast, which is usually twice a month or bi-weekly, whatever. I do a Forgotten Movie Den, where I kind of highlight movies that I loved growing up and kind of thing. A lot of action, martial art type movies I talk about. And then some are horror or science fiction. But I have that Patreon up. I've got the Indiegogo campaign you had mentioned for my new film. I'm not even going to try to repeat that address, but just go to my Twitter and you'll find it. My Twitter is easy. It's just twitter.com/killerwolffilm. So I really encourage, people to come out and just, communicate with me and say, hey, Len, I watched this crazy werewolf movie. You can tell me that stuff, because I'm a fan like you guys, you know what I mean? I love this stuff. So I don't want to be seen as some kind of unapproachable person when people go to talk to. Like you said, well, I emailed Len, but I had no idea he'd messaged me back. Fuck, dude, I messaged you back in like a day or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Fantastic. So I was so happy with that. Before this comes to a close, I have to ask this, and I feel so bad because it's like not even related. But are you familiar with levels of separation from like a figure or that kind of thing?
Is that kind of like the Kevin Bacon thing? I am, yeah.
Where it's like someone who knows someone.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah. So obviously, talking to you now puts all three of us as one level of separation away from the guys at Red Letter Media. And I feel terrible mentioning this, but the final question I had was, what was it like working with them? And as professional as we've been, do you think we could have them on the podcast?
Oh shit.
I could never speak for those guys. I mean, I don't have that kind of pull with them. I know some people or fans think I'm like part of the group or something like that, which I'm really not. I mean, they just call me when they think they have something for me or whatever. So, and I've done a few things for them. Either I'm a special guest at like the end of an episode, like this Christmas episode they had. Mike emailed me and said, Len, we want you to destroy the How to Become a Teenage Ninja tape. What's your ideas for this or that or this or that? So I said, well, Mike, maybe I write it like I live in a monastery somewhere, like a monk or something. So, we collaborate on things like that here and there. Or they did the horse ninja gimmick what was it, like a year ago or so? They did the horse ninja thing that came out. So
I remember that. Oh my God.
So but when they call me, the thing I really want to do, or I have the little gimmick appearance in a movie they did called Space Cop. The most fun I have, though, when they call me, that I look forward to the most, is doing Best of the Worst, because those are the films I really, really love. Personally, I have a deep love for a lot of the movies they select on that program. So, and that's my favorite thing that they do. But I think the thing to take away from it that I can say about them is they're extremely hardworking guys. I mean, they're really genuinely funny, hardworking guys in real life. And I think, they put it all out there for their fans. And, I think, not that I'm ruining anything by it, but I think like somebody like Mike will be like, he'll do something on Best of the Worst. This is the worst movie I've ever seen. But you know what? I've got news for you. They love this stuff too. They're fans too.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, they can make fun of a lot of these movies, and that's what makes the program fun and stuff. But when I went out there a few years ago, after I shot my bit for Space Cop, we were just sitting around having pizza and drinks and stuff, and we just watched Suburban Sasquatch for the fun of it. You know what I mean? We weren't filming anything, we weren't doing anything. It's like, oh, we're sitting around hanging out. What should we watch? We didn't watch Jaws. We didn't watch The Shining. We watched fucking Suburban Sasquatch.
Oh no, those movies are not to be watched with friends. Exactly. I think Suburban Sasquatch are fucking like I do. I watch B movies with friends. You don't watch a Kubrick movie with a friend. You watch a film. You watch the Red Letter Media shit. What I love about them is just I think they're an inspiration for a lot of us, because they are very much beyond also them enjoying B movies. They are very much genuine in their opinions and their perspectives towards films. And I think we love that, because we're used to seeing a lot of film criticism that's very objective, tries to be objective. And sometimes it just feels fake, heartless. And then you have Red Letter Media coming out and being like, this film made me want to gouge out my eyeballs. or it was fantastic. There was a Bigfoot who ripped someone's arms off and then beat him to death with them. And it was the best film ever.
But I think with that, though, you could go back to kind of my piece of advice for you guys when you said, when you have somebody like that that's genuine about it. it kind of goes back to what my advice for you guys would be when, you go into your endeavors in filmmaking is be genuine about it, and people will respect that, and they're going to be there for you when you do your projects, when you do your work. So I think genuine is a very good thing. When people sense that from you, it attracts people, that want to see those kind of pictures or watch those kinds of reviews or entertainment in general. So.
Yeah, and we appreciate you for that as well, and especially from this conversation tonight, we can tell just how much of yourself you put into these movies and these things that you produce, and the fact that you have a full-time job and you're a dad on top of making these films, and just I don't know, the amount of dedication and work and fun that comes out of the movies, it shows, and especially in stuff like Swarm Zombies, where you could tell it was your first movie. But just the sheer organization that went into it, and you can tell, we were watching it, and you can tell that after every cut, someone was laughing, someone was having a good time. And so yeah, we know that when you give us this advice about being genuine and being sincere, that you absolutely take that advice to heart as well. And filmmakers like you are necessary, Len. We need more of them. Not so much of pretentious filmmakers and that kind of stuff. People who are totally honest with themselves and that kind of shit. And fantastic.
I'm just getting rolling, so I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So stick around.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't wait to see what else you produce next. I want to see Swarm Zombies 2. I don't have the $2, but I'll find it. I'm so poor right now, but I'll find it because I just want to see more stuff. And yeah, it's just been amazing having you on today. And I just want to check quickly that no one else has any questions.
No, I guess not. Alvaro?
I just want to say thank you very much.
Same here.
Really. Yeah. And beyond the fact of you taking in this podcast, also your words really mean a lot to me, and I'm guessing they mean a lot to my friends here too.
Yeah, that's good.
Definitely.
Excellent. So, like I said, I've made a lot of mistakes already, so you guys don't have to. So if you have any questions, Twitter me or message me and say, hey, Len, I'm thinking about doing this or that or this or that. What do you think about this or that? I've made a shit ton of mistakes in my life in filmmaking. So if any experiences I've had along the way that I think can help you guys or something, don't hesitate to ask me questions. So, good luck with your stuff. So I really appreciate you guys thinking of my works and having me on your first show, dude. So
thank you. Yeah, it's been great.
Thanks, man.
We appreciate you coming on, and again, just thank you so much. It's been fantastic just talking to you, getting to know the man himself and that kind of stuff. It's been fun back here as well. It's 5 a.m. for Alvaro, so thank you for staying on.
Yeah, where I'm at, it's about 11 o'clock. Yeah, it's 11 o'clock.
It's 4 a.m. for me, so it's been crazy trying to organize this. But no, we just appreciate you coming on, and again, the initial thought of he's gonna say no, and then having this, and it's been fun. Yeah.
Well, make sure to send me a link when this gets done, and I'll post it and get it out there. And
we will.
Oh, absolutely, we'd appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Absolutely, I'll post it all over the social media shit and all that stuff, and get it out there.
Thanks,
so man. Just when you get it edited or whatever you're doing, just send me the link for it, and I'll get it up there.
Absolutely, we'll do, and I hope we can have you on in the near future. It'd be fantastic to have you on again. I hope we've been great hosts because you've been such a great guest, and very patient because it's our first time round and we've not quite figured out the order of things yet, and it's been very rough around the edges.
I know how that is. I've been there when you're trying something new and don't know what you're doing. So trust me, I've been there. So.
But yeah, thank you once again. And yeah, I mean, that's it for me.
All right. Well, Patryk, Alvaro, Alejandro, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you too, and I hope you have a good night.
Good night.
Have a good night, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
That was incredible.
That went really well, actually. Fuck.
Holy fuck.
I thought it was gonna be shit.
The sun is coming out. I can see the sun.
Same here. I can see the sunrise.
Alvaro, it's a fucking metaphor. It means